We're live. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. In here, main man, Danny Thompson. You can find him on Twitter at Danny, the number 3, Thompson. Before we get started, Danny, welcome back and congratulations.
Well, first off, it's always great to be on Late Night Parents. You know, there's nothing better than spending late nights with Ted Hicks. I mean, there's nothing better than that. And you're welcome, by the way. I appreciate the congratulations.
Yeah. It's a lot. A lot has to say about the hard work that you've put in. I've actually watched it over the years, the hard work that you have done in all aspects in various different mediums, from radio to TV to podcasting, video podcasting, but most importantly, your writing. So let our listeners know and viewers know, what are we congratulating you for?
I just joined the team over at SI.com, writing feature articles for the Charlotte Hornets. I took that position on and joined the team as of Thursday. So I'll be providing Charlotte Hornets content to SI.com, and you know, it's great to be back in my home city, talking about the Hornets and a team I grew up loving and watching, and now I get to be a part of something I've also read since I was a kid, because every person growing up either read Sports Illustrated or Sports Illustrated for Kids. So it's one of those bucket list places you want to check off and work, and now I'm part of the team. It's like, okay, so let's get going.
That's cool. That's really cool. You know, it's just, you know, with us being friends, you kind of let me know before it went public and everything else like that. And I say, you know what? It's a deal you couldn't turn down. The exposure from Sports Illustrated alone, SI.com alone, is going to be great for the brand, for all that you are doing, and, you know, what you're going to do in the future. So I know it's NBA specific, but so is it team specific, or is it league? Is it breaking news?
As of now, it's going to be much more of the Hornets for now. If stuff will get into NBA stuff, you know, I want to say thank you to Sam Amico over at sports.si.com. He's one of the guys I've written for before at Amico Hoops, and you know, it came with an opportunity to work with him again, and I can only, you know, be thankful and blessed for the opportunity. And you know, we'll see. You know, we'll just take it one day at a time, one step at a time. And you know, like I said, starting out with Sports Illustrated is, you know, like you said, the amount of hours in the gym shooting jump shots on a typewriter. You know,
oh yeah.
I'm grateful for Sam for the opportunity, and we're going to see where it goes. We'll just take it one day and one step at a time. As right now, it's getting ready for the Hornets. The lottery happened this week, and you know, it's excitement in Charlotte for the first time in a very long time.
That's good. So you mentioned the lottery happened this week. Who are the big winners and losers of the NBA draft lottery?
Well, I mean, you have to understand the Charlotte Hornets haven't leaped up in a lottery in 21 years. So, of course, they're going to be one of the big winners in the lottery. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves, of course, anytime you get the top overall pick, you have that, you consider a winner. I think even the Chicago Bulls, because the Bulls and the Hornets jumped into the top 4. So you have a brand new general manager in Chicago, soon to be a new head coach, a young nucleus around it. And you know, those are the major winners of the draft between those 3 teams. And of course, Golden State's picking second, but now the real question is, what is Golden State going to do with the second pick? Right. League-wide sources around the league saying that this pick will be made for somebody else, or they're going to move it before draft.
Because when you look at the salary cap for the Warriors, are they already at the luxury? Is it possible you could say they're already maxed out? You know, picking a number 2 pick, that's going to they wouldn't have the salary cap at any given point unless they move one of their key pieces, correct?
No, because it's their own draft pick. There's a cap hold on it. They'll just be paying deeper into the tax. So the Warriors are at a point now when you have Klay Thompson and Steph Curry both at their maxes. You're paying Andrew Wiggins almost in excess of $27 million. Draymond Green's almost at 20. Their space is tapped out. I mean, the number 2 overall pick has a cap hold of about $10.3 million. And this team is different than the rest of the teams in the lottery, because when Klay Thompson and Steph Curry are both healthy, you can, whoever you want to say first, when you have the Splash Brothers in the lineup, you're automatically a playoff team. And the Warriors believe their window for championships are still open because those two guys are returning back on the court next year. Now you throw Andrew Wiggins in. You have Draymond Green, who's not with wear and tear because the COVID outbreak kind of helped the Warriors because Green took the rest of the year off. To be honest with you, he hasn't played a basketball game since March. And for a team that's been in the NBA Finals for the last 5 years, going into this current bubble situation, it's good to have it's good to have some time off. It's a non-Olympic year, so Clay and Steph don't have to worry about the Olympics. So when they get back on the court sometime in 2021, or even if they show up for the mini bubble in September, they'll have plenty of rest on their side.
I've seen Draymond Green on the dais with Chuck, Ernie, and Kenny more than I've actually seen him actually on in the bubble actually playing basketball this year. But like you said, it must be by design. Let's get into the NBA playoffs. I don't like to talk scores because I like for our conversations to be played today, tomorrow, or next year. Is there anything that has shocked you with with this version of the playoffs?
Well, some of the things that shocked me, one of the first things is the Denver Nuggets literally, it seems like they're laying down. The Utah Jazz are without Bojan Bogdanovic in the series. Mike Conley missed the first two games, but it was because of the birth of his child. You would think the Denver Nuggets, even though they don't have Will Barton and Gary Harris, should have won this series. Mike Conley is the team's third leading scorer, is not there. The second leading scorer, Bogdanovic, is there. So all you really have is Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert going against Nikola Jokic, the ever evolving Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, and a team in Denver that was literally one quarter away from the Western Conference Finals last year before losing to Dame Lillard and the Blazers. So for them to be down potentially 3-1 after all of this is very shocking. And the way they've been beaten in games 2 and game 3, it wasn't pretty. And I think as we're recording this show now, they were losing in the fourth quarter in game 4. So that's one story that's been surprising. The other one is, listen, the LA Clippers, if it wasn't for an ejection in game 1 of Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic hurting his ankle in game 3, this could be a sweep in the favor of the Mavericks. Who would have thought the Mavericks would be at 2-2? Would have split the first 4 games with all those circumstances happening. And what Luka Doncic did in game 4 is the stuff of legends. 2 players in the history of the NBA has put up numbers similar to Doncic in the same game, that being Charles Barkley and Oscar Robinson, when Luka went for 42, 17, and 13 in game 4. So those are the big stories and the shocking headlines. That's what for me, those are the things that stand out so far in the first about week or so of the playoffs.
If you could look into your crystal ball, or if you could be Barry Allen, the Flash, and go back in time, would you tell Kawhi to stay in Toronto, or would you say to Doc Rivers and company that, you might be maxed out where you are, not maxed out money-wise, but maxed out with talent-wise, because, on this weekend, it seems like you're having a tussle with the Dallas Mavericks. And the follow-up to that is, it seems like the Toronto Raptors haven't skipped a beat.
To answer your first question, the Raptors haven't skipped a beat. They swept the Brooklyn Nets, but we all knew that was coming. But in game 4, for them to score 100 points off the bench, that was something it's never happened in the history of basketball. A bench scoring 100 points, the most in the game was 86 in the playoffs and 94 in the regular season. If you go to answer your first question about Kawhi Leonard, does he go back in time and change his decision? I think that decision made him happy. Kawhi he's happy. He wanted to be in LA, and he did what he had to do with the Raptors. He got the championship. They won the championship, and he had a chance to go home. And if you look at the crystal ball and wondering what he should go back and change is, do you go back and make all this acquisition for Paul George the way he's been playing in the first 4 games of the playoffs? If you want to go back and change the hands of time, you might want to change that. But I think Kawhi is in the right place. Sometimes it's not about, sometimes when you win a championship and you have a chance to go home, I think for him, being at home was way more important than staying in Canada. So I have no problem with it.
All right. We'll dip back to the NBA playoffs. I just want to ask you one specific political question.
Okay.
CBS poll came out within the last 24 hours, and it stated that 57% of Republicans believe that the current number of deaths due to the COVID-19 is acceptable. So we're going to say we'll round the number off to 175,000 deaths. And, you know, with this week coming up is the Republican National Convention. At this point, with you living the last 10 or so years, 8 to 10 years in Florida, does any of that surprise you?
The fact they found it's acceptable, or the number of deaths in general?
The fact that they found 175,000 plus deaths were acceptable.
The Republican Party to say that? No, it didn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that 57% of Republicans said that. But here's the thing. Of those 57% that said it was acceptable, I wonder how many of those had family members, close friends, loved ones, colleagues, someone that was close to them that was affected by COVID. But a lot of times in polls like that, you know, they forget the human part of everything and want to stay with political alliances and political parties and for whatever agenda they have. So that 57% doesn't surprise me. As just a person in general, 175,000 deaths is never acceptable for anything, especially when the resources were there before any of this happened to probably maybe cut a good number of these deaths down, not to say down to zero, but a good number of these deaths could have been prevented if other things would have been in place or other things would have been acted upon in a timely manner.
Gotcha. Good answer. And staying with COVID, I think there's basically with college football, when do you expect college football to be totally shut down? Or will these individual conferences still try to, you know, develop their own version of a bubble and play teams in their own specific division?
Well, I mean, you already have 3 of the Power 5 schools saying they're going to play college football regardless. The SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 had said we're going to play college football. The Big 10 and the Pac-10 were like, you know what, we'll take the season off and potentially let's think about this thing in the first part of the year in 2021. Will this thing get shut down? Well, here's the thing. What will help college football, and I know this is not a good thing to say, is if the students in the campuses that come across the Power 5 schools and even the other conferences that are in play, if those students do not touch the campus, you have a better chance of controlling COVID for the players on campus. So if you're keeping score at home, if the kids have to stay home, the players have a better chance of not spreading COVID because you're not around an entire university of people. Now, is it a great idea to even do this at all? No. The college athletes should not be on campus if their fellow classmates are not able to take classes either. I mean, if you're an athlete and you feel like you look over and the rest of the dorms are empty because they're concerned about the students with potentially catching COVID-19 or professors or anybody else, as an athlete and you're on the campus, you feel like, well, what makes me any different with them? It makes you feel like you're just a number or just something that put money in people's pockets and not to lose television contracts or television deals. You see more of a number. But I've always said this with any major sport without a bubble. The first major outbreak during the season will get the season clipped. You're going to have players that are going to test positive for COVID in the very beginning because, you know, you don't know what they're going into when they get there. The first outbreak in the season will end it. That's how I feel. Once the university gets it, like you said, we saw North Carolina, we saw Notre Dame. I think North Carolina's Notre Dame had to shut it down for a week. Oklahoma had to shut down for a week. This is in the beginning. But can you imagine in September when the season starts, and let's just say Oklahoma or Oklahoma State or one of the ACC or the SEC schools catches COVID as an outbreak? you don't want to Florida Martin situation or the St. Louis Cardinals or even the Mets and Yankees, like what's going on now.
Right.
Teams miss games. There's no open dates. There's really no flexibility with the exception of the one open date on every team schedule. It doesn't match. So I feel like once if there is an outbreak, that's when college football gets shut down. So for me, the way things are going, Ted, I'll be honest with you, I don't see this thing the latest.
I want to kind of switch gears and say in 2021, 2022, the NFL rights packages with the various networks are going to be up. So the renegotiating process is going to start, I would say, momentarily within the next 6 months or so, because the whole goal is to have early renewals so that everyone's working together in good faith. News article came. I'm not sure if it was Front Office Sports or I forgot. I'm not sure if it was a Big Lead or frontofficesports.com, but a lot of talk is coming out that ABC is in competition to get a Sunday afternoon package. What's more, tell me, Danny, what's more surprising to you? ABC getting a third package in the afternoon, on Sunday afternoon, meaning 1 o'clock or the 4:25 window, or ABC receiving a non-Sunday package?
I think if anything, they want a Sunday package, of course, but I think the NFL, if anything, would probably even give them Thursday night, as I think as substitution for the whole Amazon idea with the NFL Network and those things. If you put it, there's nothing against ABC with the package with ESPN because it's ABC, but to split up games even further to have games on 4 networks on a Sunday, it gets to be kind of convoluted and confusing because at what point does what network hold what team? It's right. Different with ABC. It's different with NBC, ABC, and CBS and Fox because they fight over. They protect certain games from Sunday Night Football. They already got to protect those games from Sunday Night Football when Sunday Night Football goes into the flex scheduling after Week 10. They got to fight those networks off for those games. Can you imagine having to give up now not only your flexibility for the 425 games or the national games in the first part of the season? Can you imagine giving all that up to ABC? And who gets what? Because ABC will be covering all the games. How is that going to work? Are they going to get one game? And then how would you match that up with the other networks? It's going to be interesting to figure this out. But what makes most sense is ABC taking on Thursday football. But for the last few years, Thursday Night Football hasn't had the most attractive matchups. So ABC is going to pay a whole bunch of money for non-attractive matchups. It's just going to be interesting to see that. I don't know how it's going to work unless ABC decides they want to take over it for NBC for Sunday Night Football.
The only thing I can say that's in their favor is the fact that 1, they're Disney. 2, they could do, when they do the ABC and ESPN syndication where they have the show or they have the event on the cable and network. I think it's important that football, or NFL looks at another, over the air option, because as we see with cord cutting, the options for cable TV are getting less and less. I think, if we think about ESPN subscribers 5 years ago, 7 years ago, they were at 110 million. Now they're barely at 82 million. It's really going to be interesting if they choose to give them a third package. I think that's highly unlikely because you get these big numbers at 1 o'clock or 4:25 for a specific reason.
Yeah,
because there's no competition.
Well, even with that, it's because the home markets is one thing, but like it's just really okay. So if you're in a non-home market, if you're in a home market and you're a late game that day, are you blacking out both other networks when it comes to that 425 window? If a game starts at 405, it's just because, like you say, it becomes convoluted and it becomes confusing to the user. Now, Ted, maybe this is an idea. Maybe ABC, ESPN get in and they maybe try to fight the Sunday ticket battle as being a source of showing the games in non-local local markets for other games, kind of like NFL Sunday tickets, kind of sort of. I can see that being a logical option, but does ESPN and ABC just the feed from other networks? Is the question. You know,
I was looking at it also. It really interests me because just think of it. Nowadays, the NFL makes roughly about $5 billion from the previous engagement. And they're looking to double that amount of money from 5 to 10 billion because, rights fees and everything goes up. Nothing goes down. What about if ABC turns around or Disney turns around and says, you know what? These games are going to be available on our streaming service on Disney Plus.
On the Hulu package.
Or if they turn around and say, you know what, Fox was your primary option. We're going to buy Fox out. They have 5 years or 3 years left on the deal. We're going to buy their 3 years out, and then we're going to up it another 5 years so that we'll have this package for the next 8 years. We have Thursday Night Football.
And see them taking Thursday Night Football. I don't mind because it makes logical sense because you're not ruining anything that you're not ruining something that's been literally in place, Ted, since you were watching football as a child. That's how long back in the dark ages when we had old TVs that had rabbit ears. Everybody knew the AFC was on one channel, the NFC's on the other one, and they swapped the interconference matchups. But Ted, adding a third package on there is pretty much confusing. It reminds me almost confusing as Ted. You remember back in the mid '90s, late '90s, when TNT had the first 8 weeks of Sunday Night Football.
Yes,
and I think they switched to ESPN for the second half of the season.
Or 2 to 3 years ago, when CBS and NBC had the Thursday night package, you didn't know which channel it was on
exactly.
Thursday night.
And what could happen is, it'd be interesting, Ted, if the NFL, if ABC say, you know what, these games in December, when college football goes away, we want a Saturday package for the final 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah. And
we have a Saturday 425 game on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Or 2 games on a Saturday, 425, 8:15 on Saturday. That's not a bad idea, but you're not breaking protocol if you do it that way.
I'm going to go again with what you're saying. If college football is canceled this year, I say make a package for Saturday games for this upcoming season.
But then would that mess up the schedules for everybody in the NFL that you've already still?
Probably. Probably. Well, you think the NFL cares?
Listen, I mean that makes games much more accessible for everybody to watch, and that's just going. Only people who get upset are housewives and people who hate football throughout the whole fall season because there's not a single spouse in the country who hates football that's going to like their other half watching football all day on Saturday and Sunday, talking about the NFL's on. So you're going to cause some more breakups in quarantine home across America.
Pre-pandemic, divorce rate was at 50%. I would love to see what the divorce rate is now. I mean, and the other thing I said on a podcast earlier today was the fact that child abuse, all of this other stuff, Danny, is up since this pandemic. Because you hate to say it, but it seems like, spouses don't like each other, or they learn to deal with each other, and I don't know. It's just
it's wild.
Some scary numbers. It's just some scary numbers.
Wild. It's wild all the way around. And what makes it the crazier part is that you got the kids home. They're all virtually learning. Parents are starting to see across the country why teachers drink wine after a hard day of school. They understand that now.
Yes,
Like, and then I think parents nowadays are who are not used to this have a new appreciation for teachers. They have a 100% true new appreciation for what teachers bring to the table now.
definitely, definitely. Want to go back to the NBA? If LeBron and friends don't win don't win this bubble tournament, I think it came up either on Get Up or TNT. It said LeBron takes another hit to his legacy takes another hit. Yes, no, true, false, or you're calling BS.
I mean, everybody wants to find ways to try to knock down LeBron James's legacy. To me, if he wins a championship, it's going to be with an asterisk anyway. Oh, it's the bubble season. This wasn't a full season, so it's going to be an asterisk regardless. This season, you might as well throw away LeBron. If he wins or loses, it's going to be something involved in it. The people who love LeBron James say he won a championship. The people who don't like him says, oh, they won in the bubble season. And then if he doesn't win, oh, he didn't win the championship. But then the LeBron fans are saying, well, it was a bubble season. It was condensed. We didn't have a full season, so on and so forth. To me, it doesn't affect his legacy. Him winning the actually kind of help it a bit because it gets to the number 4. And it gets him one step closer to 500. My whole thing is LeBron gets to 500, we can start having the GOAT conversation at that point.
Okay, that sounds fair. So you just did your first article on SI.com. What are the new things you're working on for your next post? What are some of your thoughts?
Well, right now with Charlotte getting the third overall pick, it's really talking about getting into know some of the prospects that the Hornets could potentially be drafting over the next couple of weeks. You're looking at James Wiseman from the center from University of Memphis. You're looking at Anthony Edwards, shooting guard from Georgia. You're looking at LaMelo Ball he played over in Australia, but we all know who LaMelo Ball is. You're looking at Denny Avaja, the kid from Israel, Maccabi Tel Aviv, small forward, and potentially other options of Charlotte, and really taking a deeper dive into what the franchise is looking like as we're having these conversations, what the roster looks like. And what is one of the more interesting things that's going on right now before we get to the NBA draft is the non-playoff bubble starts September 14th for the teams that did not go to the bubble. So They go from September 14th to September 20th as individual workouts and basically everybody getting quarantined. And then you go from September 21st to I think like December 6th or October 6th, where the teams will get together for 2 weeks. They'll have not just their players, but the additional 5 players they have from the G League, and they can actually work as a team. You start to figure out who does what. In a case of like Charlotte, you can find out, is a shooting guard what you need? Do you need a point guard? Is the big man going to help? If you're Atlanta, you get time for Trae Young and John Collins and the newly acquired Clint Capella to all start building chemistry. You look at Chicago, they have a new coach coming in. We don't know who it is yet, but they get to install their system. Tom Thibodeau, speaking of new coaches, Tom Thibodeau in New York gets a chance to evaluate what's on that roster with the Knicks and can figure out, can he get this team to play defense? The Golden State Warriors. Minnesota has their chance to see their young guys. So it's really a great evaluation time for these teams before we get to the NBA draft. So they have a better idea of what to look for in the draft, because as of now, teams cannot have individual workouts with players before the draft. So you're really going on the fact of how good was your scouting before COVID-19.
Final question I'll have for you is, what are your expectations for the 2020-2021 season? Start dates, stop dates. Will we see an 82-game season? Will we see a variation of USA versus the world? What do you see for next season?
Well, as of right now, Adam Silver had said during the draft lottery to I think it was Rachel Nichols, the question was asked about a December 1st start date. Adam Silver said it's very unlikely that's going to happen. I didn't think that was going to be an option anyway. December 1st is way too early to really get these guys restarted right after end of the season, potentially in mid-October. I'm looking at after New Year's is when we should kick off basketball, and the NBA really wants to have basketball in their home markets. That's the other thing. It was great to have bubble basketball. It was great for what we're watching, and it's only going to get better. I mean, you see Donovan Mitchell in the background, your background, Ted, and you see him smiling. So we already know what just happened. We already know what the Spiders over there doing. But it's great to have bubble basketball. It's great to have basketball on 7 days a week at 1:00 in the afternoon. But logistically for 2021 season, that's not what they want to do. They want to be able for people to come home from work and be able to watch basketball and watch their favorite teams play basketball. I get it. The Lakers will never play at 1:00 in the afternoon because they will burn America down if that happened. But you said start date. I'm thinking it'll be after New Year's. Honestly, the smartest idea would be Martin Luther King Day. This day, the NBA always seems to do something special with Martin Luther King Day. Let's start the season then. That way, the players won't have to technically be in training camp until after New Year's. They can spend the holidays and for the first time spend Christmas and New Year's with their families and get started in January. I don't think it's an 82-game season. I don't think we get an all-star game. They've already told the hotels in Indianapolis have already basically kind of told everybody kind of sort of that the deals that we made before, we kind of going to go back on those. I don't think we get an all-star game this year. And the players already have issues with concerns with back-to-backs anyway. I think it'd be a 50-game season, kind of similar to what we had in 99. I think we'll get about 50 games to make sure everybody gets in place and we'll have the playoffs. And then for the 21-22 season, as long as everything goes back to normal, we'll have a full 82-game season the following season.
Gotcha. Danny, thanks for taking 30 or so minutes with us. I know your schedule, your calendar is kind of full.
No. Always have time for everything.
Big opportunity with once again, congratulations on Sports Illustrated. Tell us about the other outlets that you currently write for or commentate on and all the various business partnerships. And that's going to take another 5 minutes, but I yield the floor to you.
No, first and foremost, it's always a pleasure being on Late Night Parents. It's anytime I get the bat signal to come on the show, it's always what time you want me on, Ted. So first and foremost, you can check out my NBA work once again at si.com for Sports Illustrated for the Charlotte Hornets. You can check out the rest of my sports work over at the 3-Point Conversion, 3pointconversion.com. Big shouts to those guys over there, guys and girls over there. So many to name. And I do a lot of my commentary over there, especially with the NFL, WNBA. I do contribute the NBA side of things and the NFL as well. I also have my show on Zingo Television as we're watching Late Night 199, which is called Beyond the Buzzer. Myself and my 3-Point Conversion colleague, Kyle Nash, otherwise known as a student of the game, we go over all different types of topics in sports and a little bit of humor as well, too. And that's on Monday and Thursday nights at 9 p.m. My basketball show is called Talking Hoops with myself and Deshaun Tate, team captain of hashtag LSU, and I don't mean Louisiana State, otherwise known as Light Skin United. That show is on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. on Zingo Television and Blackjack Television as well, too. So between all the outlets doing those things and, and just enjoying sports for what it is. And like I said, you can follow me on Twitter at Danny3, that's DANY, the number 3 Thompson on Twitter. And like I said, it's always a pleasure and always an honor to be on the show every single time you make the call.
Gotcha. Danny, as always, thank you. And this is your latest version of Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. Thanks again, guys.